One mystery is solved just as another comes to light, showing that both actions and choices have consequences, sooner or later. It's The Walking Dead, Season 9, Episode 3, Warning Signs. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So yes, spoilers are coming up straight away. Alright, so moving right along this episode. There's a lot to this episode, I gotta say. A lot of kind of talkiness. There was some action, we had some development, and the one thing I can say with this episode is it is solving mysteries quickly. We're in the third episode. We've already sort of wrapped up the whole, missing savior bit. What's happened with Justin, our guesses from last week, we find out immediately as this episode opens up. So, again, while not a huge action episode, there's a lot of story that developed. There was, again, these mysteries are being solved. The things are moving quickly. And that's one thing I do have to appreciate, because I was kind of concerned this whole, missing savior question thing was going to get dragged out for several more episodes. So it's one thing I got to say, I am glad that they are moving this along. So, missing saviors and Justin's fate. We do find out, like I said, straight away that Justin was in fact killed at the end of last episode. There might have been a little bit of time that went past before he actually ended up getting in the chest and munched on by the walkers there. But we don't have long to find that out in this episode. Again, opening sequence, we see exactly what happens. And, bummer for Zach McGowan. I mean, part of me is like, hey, Zach McGowan's a good character. He's a good actor. It seems like kind of a quick waste for him. On the other hand, gets to be on The Walking Dead. I think all of us would be more than happy to do a cameo on The Walking Dead and to get axed and turned into a walker. So I can't really discount him in that sense. But yes, what has happened? That mystery, again, like I mentioned, solved very quickly by the end of the episode. And, they did a little bit of a nice redirect. I appreciated the little ambush that Maggie and company almost ran into there with a search party of saviors, seeming like, is this what's going on? Do we have wayfarers that are just raiding whoever is going down the road and taking their stuff? Is this what was going on? And it certainly played that way. Certainly felt like it could have gone that way. And they are pushing up these sort of a-holery of the saviors, I think, in that scene straight off. But, again, cleaned out very quickly. Maggie gets given the name. Look, we're just on a search party. We're moving on. These are the people that we're looking for. So we get that feeling that that possibility was there, but they do, in fact, quickly move on. And of course, as soon as they leave the road, we see Justin wandering out there all walker-ish, and that leads us to our big encounter in the encampment. And this could have been another possibility. One, we could have had saviors wayfaring travelers and taking their stuff, tired of working for it, wanting to go back to a bit of their old ways. Another possibility was to create tension as a way of getting weapons back. They have been denied any guns as a way of the settlement of the whole war, understandably so. But seeing that several of their number are missing, finding definitely Justin being killed, not just eaten by walkers, but definitely puncture wound to the chest. Was it an arrow? Was it something else? Who knows? Therefore, was it Daryl? Anne's name was thrown out because she's the junkyard girl and nobody seems to trust her. Again, so we got a lot of tension throwing out in this sequence. So it could be possibly, is this the savior simply reacting that they are being hunted and they want to defend themselves? Or is this part of the plan? We wayfare a few people, maybe take out one or two of our own, stoke some tensions, and therefore the saviors get a little bit of guns back. So there was some interesting redirect that was going on in the beginning of the episode, right there with what the possibilities could have been. But what it's definitely doing is it's putting all of our forces, all of our communities, just at loggerheads. The conflict very apparent, the trust level definitely dropping. Everyone is looking at everyone else in this age, and this is not a good position to be in when you are building a community. Not at all. So we get our search parties out. Do like searching by grids. I think that was an excellent direction. And so as everything finally does lay itself out, we do find out that it is in fact a small group of the Oceansiders that are seeking revenge on the Saviors that came to their initial encampment and created all of the problems. If we remember the history of the Oceansiders, they were a community, men, women, children. Saviors came along, killed all the men, all of the kids above certain age, and left basically just the women there and the young kids. So really, very emotional, I think, that whole last sequence. I could really, in a way, sort of feel for them. And it got us in sort of a couple of different interesting directions here, because I completely understand their anger. But this was something that we were hoping with the peace had been sort of settled, that yes, we understood that everybody had these histories, these pasts, there was a war, but now we have agreed to put that behind us and move on. But what it comes down, and everybody apparently was, until Maggie killed Gregory. So we can see how that initial action here is now leading to these particular consequences. That because Maggie killed Gregory, that the Oceansiders now are saying, look, we don't just have to stand by, there is another way. We can have our revenge against those people that wronged us, and this is now an acceptable solution. There was Rick's, all life is important, every life matters, versus now Maggie's, if you cross a certain line, this is where it's going to go. And obviously, these are the kinds of conflicts that Michonne is trying to sort out with her developments of a charter. But the question coming up, I think Jerry asked it, it's sort of a beautiful way. When we find who is responsible, is it Gregory or a Negan? What do we do with them? I think that's sort of a perfect way of settling out. Do we hang them? Is it a death consequence? Or do we throw them in jail? Before it was just the Negan was the option. Now we have the Gregory option, and that's where the Oceansiders are going. I also thought it was kind of interesting because we do know that Maggie and Daryl both do not agree with Rick's decision. But in a way, as they were running into at this point, they were kind of leaning more in that direction. Every life has an importance. They seem to be going that way. And so that's where it seemed that scene was going to lay itself out. That Maggie and or Daryl was going to be like, look, we've moved past this. We can't do it. We have to move on and to save Arat's life. However, like I said, didn't go that way. And I guess when it comes down to killing a kid, you're not going to get a whole lot of argument for revenge. The death of her brother, of that 11-year-old kid. And what's the line? No exceptions. I begged, I pleaded, and what did you say? No exceptions. So a very cold twist right there as Maggie and Daryl turned and walked away, and we could see in the background Arat being executed. I guess in a way that everyone believed in. I mean, again, you kill a kid, it's kind of hard to forgive that part. But the further consequence, of course, of that action is now that the Oceansiders saw that Maggie showed them a different way, Maggie now, through the Oceansiders, has seen that there is a different way, and now looking for her and Daryl to stage an open revolt against Rick, maybe to try and go out and just pull Negan out of the jail cell and execute him right there. They have tried it Rick's way. Now they're going the other way. So we can see exactly where the conflict is going to be in these next few episodes. The next two being the last two for Rick Grimes. And Anne, kind of an interesting development of storyline for her these last couple of episodes. Obviously, her name came up with the Saviors. The Saviors don't necessarily trust Daryl, for obvious reasons, but they don't trust Anne Jadis as the junkyard lady for other reasons. They did, Simon did have all of her people executed. So, I mean, I guess there's reasons for a little bit of animosity. But it was interesting to kind of find out that Anne doesn't have that good of a background with the rest of the Alexandrians. Again, there was betrayal, and that's understandable. But now, 18 months later, she seemed to, at least the previous scenes, be in. She's doing her artwork. She's armed. She's allowed to carry a gun, so she's not locked in with the Saviors at that type of level of distrust. They have her on watch. They have her working by herself in many senses. So her, reaction, I guess, and feeling of distrust in some ways didn't ring entirely true with me. But again, it's 18 months. We're only seeing these little bits and areas, and I guess this little background story is sort of what has to let us know. But her name did come up. Gabriel did sort of standing up for her and letting Rick know, no, she was with me all night long. I mean, we did a little thingy. I won't tell you that part. But of course, he did leave afterwards, and she was on watch by herself. And I was wondering why, when Gabriel first encountered her in the tent, in the little lunch tent, as Anne was grabbing supplies, why didn't she tell him about the helicopter? There didn't seem to be any reason. He knows that she's hiding something. But that whole level of, don't you trust me? It's like, well, how can you trust? We know that you're lying, or by the very least, not letting us know the entire truth. I was kind of wondering where that was. Now, she does have a little history with the helicopter, as we remarked last week. So was kind of curious where that was going to go. And of course, we did find that out as she returned to the junkyard, which I'm going to call this week's Scene of the Week for this week, primarily because, again, it's a whole new mystery. We get a whole new insight. A lot of the rest of the episode for me was a lot of talking and theorizing and again, small story movements. The end bit was cool. But it's wrapping up that mystery, and it's setting the stage for the next things to go forward. This, to me, was intriguing, simply because it's a whole new we're getting a bit of insight into this mystery of the helicopter, what Jadis's background, and she seemed to have inserted herself in as a trustworthy person, as someone that had decided to be part of the group, part of the new world, and yet we see that she does have this dark secret, and she is ready to move on and sell people out. So there was a certain level of deliciousness, I thought, in this sequence. Anyway, going in, junkyard, pulling out from the hidden box there, a whole new walkie-talkie, calling out to the helicopter, and we're getting that idea, an A or a B. What are we going after here? An A or a B? And of course, Gabriel popping up and encountering. And here we find out, as Jada says, there's a whole different world out there. It's going to take a little while to get there, but there's a whole new place where it's safe. Again, we're opening up our world a lot more in this sequence. The whole possibilities. And you can come too when we're together, right? Again, she sold that. I thought she sold that really well. And poor Gabriel. Really reached out, has this little connection, and is willing, to listen at least. But ultimately, he's with Rick, he's with Alexandria, he makes his stand, which leaves us to, to Jadis's final line. I always thought that you were a B. Whack, and knocks him out. So, what is the A and B? Now, Jadis does sort of imply here, and yeah, I'm going to start calling her Jadis now as opposed to Anne. Is this different personality here. Now, she did say she was trading people for supplies. That was part of what the junkyard gang did here. But now there seems to be a breakdown in A or a B. And my assumption in this is a B is a sheep follower who just goes along and does what needs to survive, whereas an A is more of the I guess, alpha and beta individuals. The alpha, the leader, the strong type, making their stand, a fighter potentially, versus a B who is just sort of more of a sheep. That's where I'm going to guess that things are going, with the assumption of before Gabriel was just going to be wrapped around her finger, just do what she had said, and just be led around, versus him standing his ground, suddenly no longer being a B, being an A. Now, who these people flying the helicopter are and why they want this distinction of different individuals, because she did ask, how can I get out? I've paid my dues. How can I get out? What do you need? We need an A. So they're specifically looking for certain types of individuals. Now, is it as for fighters, or is it for some sort of experimentation? Is it for breeding? I mean, again, don't entirely know, but we will have to sort of wait and find out. Reason being is, yeah, alphas are great for fighting, but they also don't cooperate well. Maybe not always the best for fighters, whereas betas may listen, may fall into line a little bit more, but may not take the lead. So why the distinction? What is it that these new individuals are looking for? That is the new mystery that I am looking forward to finding out a little bit more of. All right, just a couple of small things. One, morning time for Rick. Seeing Rick's sort of whole morning process there, his routine, waking up, making sure, checking on everybody, letting them sleep, going out to the garden, looking at the garden at Alexandria. You know, he's returned. He's been over at the bridge. He's taking his moment, taking in Alexandria, finding the first piece of fruit and putting it down on Carl's grave there. Also, I love the little moments he walked down the steps with the handprints of Carl's and Judith's there. Again, last thing that Carl was doing with Judith in his final day there. So, again, this is kind of sweet, kind of nice. But this whole opening sequence, even that whole conversation with Michonne about the new world and how everything's going to be great, and yeah, it's going to have to be family fun day in order to get Judith to the doctor, which with the music in the way and so on. Again, nice to see the life stuff, but I found that sequence kind of annoying. I hate it when they do the musical interludes over scenes. Usually it's the end of the episode. Here's in the middle of it. But all of Rick's actions, really apparent in the first opening sequence, but all through the rest of the episode, really, he's doing the kind of things and saying the kind of things that are always the last thing a character says before they die. If we look at anything with the history of the show, you know, Herschel finds his great grand moment in peace just before he gets beheaded. I mean, Everybody gets the same thing. The brother got there. It's just fun. Oh man, again, name leaving me. Everybody seems to have these. It's very clear. Even Merle had his kind of like together moment before he ended up getting killed. Everybody goes through the same sequence. Whenever things are looking good and they're kind of having that moment, maybe even being kind of that moral center where Rick's definitely drifting in, it's always just before people get killed. So I know it's Rick's final days, but even if we didn't know it, with this whole opening sequence and his talk throughout the whole episode, he would definitely be setting himself up as the guy that's next to go. Okay, the house that they found out while doing their little grid search and such, okay, kind of cool. We got a noise, it's drawn in walkers. What was causing the noise? Why was that piece of metal flapping and banging? There was no wind. None of the trees were moving, none of the grass around people. There wasn't even a comment like, it's moving in the wind or anything. I didn't even see. I was wondering if it was like rigged up to something maybe on the inside, and with the walkers moving inside the house, that was banging around. But we didn't see any connection. And when Maggie pulled it down finally off of the roof, it didn't seem to be connected to anything. So, look, I get you got to quiet these things out. That's smart. Always want your area clear of walkers. Obviously very convenient that everything breaks just as people show up and then the walkers inside can come out. Sure, a little contrived. But still, I want to know, why was it making that noise? If you guys have any ideas, throw them down in the section below. Let me know what you guys think, because I looked all over that whole sequence and I could not find a single cause of why that thing should be constantly moving and banging and drawing in walkers that way. Just don't know. And Carol, again, showing off her badassery. Even with a knife to her throat, she is dangerous and will turn that around in an instant. I mean, I like the last sequence. It was nice. It reinforced that it's not just Rick thinking that every life is important, that even Carol, who was talking about wanting to shoot the Saviors right in the beginning of that standoff at the beginning of the episode, wanting to end things before they went any further, concerned of where things would go, not wanting to catch more loss of life, certainly of people that they know and love. I thought, it was a strong sort of turnaround for her. Even then, standing up that we're not here to kill, every life is important. And it's lucky to that guy that Carol thinks that way, because otherwise she would have axed him in a heartbeat. Don't mess with Carol. Oh, and speaking of all life is important, even though by the end Daryl is siding with Maggie and saying that there is a different way, the Gregory option is open. I did love that little discussion between Rick and Daryl when they were talking about that there has to be some options. The whole world belongs to the dead. We have to be fighting for the living. Especially when Rick brings up, it could be the most important choice you make, like not killing the guy that left your brother on a roof to die. Because that's what Rick did in episode, 2. Was it there? It was 2? I think it was episode 2, back in season 1. With that whole encounter with Merle, handcuffed him and left him on the roof to die. And that was the big concern when Daryl was first revealed, is that you left Merle's brother's not going to be too happy about it. And Daryl was at the type where he could have killed Rick, that he was in that mindset. And now they're kind of best friends. They're going to have conflicts, as we saw in the upcoming episodes. And they even have some conflicts now. But I thought that was an important point. I mean, one, it does show that, yes, sometimes it could be the smartest choice of your life not to kill that person that left your brother up there, which really reflects back onto the whole Oceansiders things that happens at the end of the episode also. Maybe killing off a rat there wasn't necessarily the best choice to do, considering you don't know what's going to happen in the future. However, by the same token, yes, that did work out well, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be always the direction, because there is going to be a bigger conflict now between Daryl and Rick, specifically about who to forgive and how to move the community forward. Do you have to take out those threats, or can you try and live with them? So it kind of works both ways. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap things up. So, yes, only 2 more episodes for Rick Grimes, which this was 3, that would be 5. I thought that he was doing 6 episodes. Were we losing an episode? Is he going to do some flashback later on? I don't know. IMDb also says that Zach McGowan was doing 5 episodes of Walking Dead, and he's gone out as a walker even by the end of episode 3 here. So, I don't know if we can always trust these episode counts and information. However, that's what the big tailiner forum AMC here from the episode says. 2 more episodes for Rick Grimes. Things are going to go south real quick. Maggie and Daryl see a different way. The Saviors have already walked away, left the camp. They're not going to finish the bridge in time. So is this the whole community falling apart? Is that going to be Rick's sacrifice, trying to bring the community together and dying to do so? Or will he be sacrificed way before then, and it's only going to be down the road where people are going to look back and think maybe Rick did have the right idea? I don't know. It's going to be a couple more very exciting episodes. I'm hoping so. Cross my fingers. Please don't suck. I know the viewer count has been going down episode by episode for this season. It's almost hitting the in trouble mode. So I like the ideas, I like the concepts that the show is bringing forward now. However, I think everybody wants to see how people survive the zombie apocalypse, not how they build a new world in a world that has zombies walking around out there. Do we want to see that kind of world building? I'm not sure if it's as action-oriented as we like. Anyway, but we will have to find out. So, that is it for us. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. And if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, like I say, throw those down in the section below. Please, if you have an idea of why that thing was making all the noise on that little house, let me know. It was tied onto something, banging. The walkers were banging against it, but then how did it draw the walkers? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And also, still, what do you think Rick's final words are going to be? Leave Negan in charge! No, I doubt it'll be something like that. And is Negan just going to be axed out here, or is he going to be living forward for some other reason? Anyway, throw those ideas down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not. Quick and easy. Just go ahead, hit this button, catch all the rest of the reviews, plus the gifted we're doing right now. And in fact, we'll throw up a couple of our latest right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.